Welcome back to Analyzing Our Games Part 22. I've been playing some London System games lately, trying to get some experience under my belt, and it has proved quite interesting because despite the fact that I've lost some games, we can learn a lot from the losses, and I think that's the best thing we can do, to play, to try to assess our games through theory and then analyze and see the mistakes we made and the improvements we can think about the next time we play the same positions or similar positions. So let's go for a game. I played it on chess.com. So I played d4, knight f6, bishop f4. This is the London system. This bishop goes to f4. d5, e3. The idea of e3 is to avoid the exchange of the bishop, the black squared bishop, by playing knight h5. So c5, c3, and queen b6. This is one of the first times I meet this variation. I played queen b3, then my opponent played c4. I don't want to exchange on b6 because if I did, I would help my opponent because he would play a b6, and I don't want to exchange my queens. It's kind of premature now. So I played queen c2, then knight c6, queen d2, e6. My opponent has a very good position. He could have played this bishop to g4, or yeah, g4 is the only thing here. Okay, then I played b3. I don't know if it's the best option here, but I want to make my opponent decide what he wants. So he took on b3, I took with the a pawn, and then bishop e7, bishop d3, bishop d7, knight gf3, rook c8, and then I have to move my queen because my opponent threatens to play the knight to b4, and then I can't take the knight because of my queen is pinned. So I moved my queen, yeah, and then castles, short castles, short castles. h3 is also possible here to avoid the exchange of this bishop, yeah, because now in case of knight h5 I can play bishop h2. Okay, but then I castled. Then my opponent played this. He wanted to exchange the knight for the bishop. This is usually good, but doesn't change much. Then I played bishop g3, he took on g3, I took with the h-pawn, and then bishop f6. My opponent has a good bishop, but this one is not good, and I have the good bishop, yeah, but my opponent has the pair of bishops, so this is kind of equal position. It's also possible to play in this situation f5 and then b4, or in case of a6 I can again play b4, and the idea is if this bishop is put on f6 then I can play knight b4, b3, and then go to c4, c5 in some moments. So after bishop f6, now I have the opportunity to play e4. This is one of the things that we have to do when we play the queen pawn, is to play e4, and the same thing goes for black. Black has to play e5. This is the good things we can do when we play the d4 pawn. So g6. Here my opponent played g6 to move his bishop to g4. This is good. Then I played e5, gaining some space. Then bishop g5, bishop g7. Then I played here, knight g5. The idea here was to play f4. I wanted to play f4, but probably rook fc1 is better to counter this rook on c8, or rook fb1 is also good, but I wanted to attack, so that's why I played on the queen side, on the king side, not on the queen side. Then I played knight g5 because I wanted to follow with f4. Then my opponent played here knight e7. It's also possible to play here f6. Then I would take on f6. Then bishop takes, knight df3, e5. As I said before, one of the things that black has to do is to play e4, e5, and white has to play e4. Then I would take on e5, knight takes, bishop takes, and we have a very equal position, or black is a little bit better because of the pair of bishops. But white has some prospects here. Maybe the white king is a little bit exposed. I don't know. Black's a little bit better here, according to the computer. And then after knight e7, I played f4. And then I took, as you can see, I took 1 minute 49 seconds. Because I was a little bit afraid of this pawn here on e5. Because of this queen. As you can see, this queen is x-raying my king, so there's always the danger of this pawn being attacked, and I can't take here because of the pin. Oh, what did I do, man? Let's flip the board and let's stop the engine. No, I don't want to use the engine. What happened? Wait. I have to do something. Control Alt F. I have to stop the engine. So it's very dangerous to have these positions like this because my king is pinned. So I played f4 but was a little bit afraid of this pin. So my opponent played a6, ya6 to avoid some things with the a6 pawn, so he protected against my rook take on a7. Okay, then I played here g4. I wanted to attack on the king side, and also I wanted to avoid this knight from coming to f5. But better is to play this to get out of this pin here, to get out of this diagonal. So king h2 is better. but I played this. But it's not too late. I could have done this again. Then my opponent tried to double the rooks on the c file. It's correct, yeah. And here I made a mistake. I played rook f3 because I wanted to transfer this rook to h3 and start attacking the opponent's king. But now this diagonal is gonna be dangerous. Better than rook f3's rook f2, or maybe the king to h2 to get out of this pin. Then after this, my opponent attacked my pawn 2 times, and then the correct move would have been here, knight b1, to defend this pawn with the knight. Then in case of f6, then he takes on f6, bishop takes, and then king a2. Black is a little bit better, but it's okay. But after this mistake here, rook c1, my opponent played this, h6, and then the only move I have for my knight is h3. And then he took here on c3, and it was a shock. You know, there's a sixth sense when we play such things. When I played f4, I was thinking about this, but we sometimes forget the things, and that's when we lose some games. Now I have to take on c3, and then here, here's the thing. My opponent won 2 pawns. Queen takes on d4 check, then now I go to h2 with my king, and then he takes on c3, I take with the queen, he takes my queen, and then I tried something here, but it didn't work, of course. I took on g6, trying to get something for this rook, but it's a mistake and doesn't change anything. Then he took on f3, I took there with check, and then my opponent took, I took on f3. And now knight c3, knight f2. I wanted to go back, and as you can see, the position changed completely. Now I don't have an attack. My opponent has a passed pawn here on the queen side. One more piece. Yeah, I have two knights. My opponent has 2 bishops and 1 knight, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns against 5 pawns. So my opponent has 1 piece, 1 extra piece. Impossible to win against such a good player, yeah. But I tried. Then my opponent played knight b4, knight d4, b5. My opponent is thinking about going with his extra pawn here to make a passed pawn. Then my king has to go help, but maybe it's too late. My opponent's very good. He didn't lose any chance of getting the advantage and win the position. Then a5, knight d1. I don't have many options here. a5, a4. Then I took on a4. Now he has 1 passed pawn. It's gonna, if I don't stop it, it's gonna go to a1 and become a queen. Then I played knight c3, a3, knight b3. Now I cover this square here on a1. Maybe king f3 is better, but this pawn would cost a piece. So knight b3, then a2, then I put my knight on a1, d4, attacking my knight. See, my knights are being sent to the first rank. Now knight d1, bishop a4, attacking my knight, bishop b2, and here my opponent destroyed and won the game quickly with knight c2. Now if I take on c2, he would make a queen, a new queen would appear on the board, and if I took on a4, he would take my knight on a1, and after that play knight b3 and make a new queen the same. So here I resigned. It was a nice game. I had some good ideas to attack on the queen's and the king side, but the security, my king was not secure, was not safe. So I think next time I have to think more about the safety of my king and be more cautious about it. Sometimes it's possible to leave your king in a safe position with very little pieces around it to protect it, but sometimes we can't, and this is one of the cases that my king was not protected and also was behind a X-ray attack. So I deserve this loss because I didn't take care of my king. So this is very instructive. I hope you liked it, and be instructive because next time we're gonna play some similar positions, and if we don't take care of our king, we're gonna lose the game. Thank you very much. See you next time.